Welcome back, my people, to this very channel. We are here with more news and more updates. Good morning, good afternoon, and also good evening. It all depends on where you are hearing us from. From here, it is a good afternoon. Now, the news is this. This elderly statesman, Pa Dan Olasi, visited Nnamdi Kanu, and I know, according to the report, he said Nnamdi Kanu intelligently talked with him. Now, on national television, he said, if fighting for one's people is regarded as terrorism, then all of us, we are terrorists, including he himself. And that is it. What else do you think that is keeping Nnamdi Kanu in custody of DSS? Is it not because he's fighting for you? Let's hear Sir Dan Olasi.
Fall from the air, and then Nnamdi Kanu becomes the issue. How can the young man become the issue when the youth of this country have been abandoned to their fate? Anything that happens, they send Nnamdi Kanu. Why? Because he's asking for justice for his people? Is that it? If that is terror, and I so declare, he is not a terrorist. If defending the interests of your people is terrorism, let me be counted as one of them.
Because, I mean, I take this word from your mouth. A lot of democracy advocates and activists, including Showere and many, have said that Nnamdi Kanu is a political prisoner. Yeah. Some have called him a prisoner of conscience. And some have said if they allow him to die in prison or incarcerated, he becomes a martyr. So I know you visited him, you spoke to him. What kind of state is he in? What is his health status?
Well, I'm not medical. My wife is a professor of medicine. That does not give me the advantage of being a doctor, but he spoke so brilliantly. He was very happy seeing me. So he was looking hale and hearty, and it gave me a lot of joy. And he said, Uncle, if you will be coming from time to time, you will make me a lot happier. And I promised him, once they will allow me to come, I will be coming to see him until we're able to sort out this problem. Because I told them, if this government was a little intelligent, if they bring out Nnamdi Kanu today, there will be 80% peace in the southeast. Let me not say 100%. There will be more than 80% peace in the southeast.
So remaining 20%?
Remaining 20%,
so where
which
will that
can
come
be managed.
From?
That one will be easy to manage. Because a lot of people are basing the argument of the local violence here. Nnamdi Kanu is being detained. And let them get him out. Because the court has discharged him. He's no more under any legal stronghold of government. He has been discharged by a court of competent jurisdiction, the appeal court of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let them bring him out. I guarantee that.
Do you think the federal government is weary of something? Is there something that they're not saying that they're afraid of if Nnamdi Kanu gets released? Or is there more to it than Mr. Eye?
I don't want to go back to Buhari. It is hatred. All these things revolves about.
Diving straight into it, a lot of conversations in between the lines and perhaps exposés to expect from this dialogue this morning. But I want to first welcome Chief Dan Olasi, and he's our guest this morning. It's good to have you.
Good morning.
As always.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I will start from asking, how do you feel as a Nigerian this morning? NLC's talking protest this morning, marching across the streets, anti-poll protests. Where did we go wrong? How did we get here?
Well, it usually takes me 25-30 minutes to go from where I am to your studio. Now it took me about 6 minutes. And I didn't see more than 10 vehicles on the streets. And when I remember that there's an NLC TUC strike going on. I think it's pretty unfortunate. Tinubu stampeded himself. Apparently because of the nature of the election, he wanted to, as it were, massage Nigerian ego. Oh, I have done this without planning for it. An intelligent thing would have been that you first set up the palliatives background with the governor, sit down and say, this is what we're going to do. It's not a personal, it's not like when he was running Lagos State. It's the federal government of Nigeria, and it's a very complicated system. You would have gotten the 36 governors, they will sit down. And this is what I want to do to ease the problems on our people. You don't create more problems by trying to solve the problem. And set out the conditions for the palliative that can help the people absorb what is going to come. That is the crisis we're in now. I mean, no matter whom you are in Nigeria, unless all these thieves all over the place, and you say you don't feel going into a filling station to buy petrol, then you must be living in another world. So it's unfortunate that it has happened. But in usually Nigeria, we have a tendency of trying to absorb. So the sooner they dish out their palliatives, if it does not go to private hands, after such things happened under Buhari, money was supposed to have been shared. You don't know the basis of the sharing and who are receiving it. So we have problems, very fundamental problems that needs, a pragmatic attention, real pragmatic thinking to be able to, because the corruption is so much that anything can happen. That's where I will stop.
But there's also a call for caution. I mean, if you listen to the IGP's cautionary note there, that this could be overtaken by gangsters and hoodlums, because already there is a pensive atmosphere in the polity, and protests could perhaps not be the best measure to take at this time.
I mean, why is there tension in the polity? It's because INEC did not conduct a free and fair election. That was the basis. That's the basis of the tension in the polity. If there was a free and fair election, as judge, when you lose, you just go home and you congratulate the person who won, and you go home. But because of the nature, I mean, 2 days ago, yesterday, I was in court with my presidential candidate, and when I listened to the chairman of the tribunal, where he was asking son Uche questions, and I saw where he was going to. So I don't know what is going to happen in this tribunal. Honestly, I don't know what is going to happen. Whether they'll be looking at the facts presented before them.
All right, let's dive straight into it. Of course, you visited Martin Nnamdi Kanu. We would want to get highlights of that because, of course, we saw the dailies this morning running with certain lead stories. One was saying that Nnamdi Kanu says Simon Ekpa is aided by the federal government. Another one talks about the amount of trillions of naira that leaves the southeast, because of the banditry and the armed robbery, and over 50 armed groups in the region already. But let's start from your visit to Nnamdi Kanu.
Well, I'll start by thanking the director of the State Security Service for at least allowing me. It's one area of government that I visited, and it looked like you're in Europe. Good process. Nobody wasted your time. All the screening processes went, quite on time. And when it was time for me to go visit him, one or two persons escorted me to where I was supposed to meet with him. And I must admit, it's one of the most emotional times of my life. First, that I saw a very brilliant Nigerian, extraordinarily brilliant Nigerian, well-spoken, very, very intelligent, who knew what he was fighting for. And we embraced ourselves more than 10 times. It became very, very touchy for both of us. And I asked him, why did you invite me? He said, because he knows I will say the truth of what he has told others and they didn't want to believe. So the essence of it was that he wanted me to tell, especially the Southeasterners, that he does not support the sit-at-home in any form. If they did it once as a symbolic gesture, yes, it's appreciated, but not to make it a regular feature from 1 day to 1 week to 2 weeks. Now, who does that to his own people? That if Ekpa or whomsoever he is supporting him, you don't create a double jeopardy for our people. Every Monday, nobody does anything. Some people depend on either their wheelbarrows or trucks or keke to make living, to maintain their families. How can he be inflicting pain on his people? It's a very simple thing. And that the handwritten note that was circulated, that he wrote it. That is not fake. He wrote it, that I should say so. That he does not support it. So I promised him that I'm not getting any younger. I will try to make out time to go to Finland. I've already sent messages because this is not the time of warmongering now. And I have to see this Ekpa and say, what's your problem? Because if he doesn't listen, I've seen the reply he made, which gives me the tendency to believe that some people are sponsoring him. If you want to be leader of your people, will you be leader of the dead or the living? He's from Ebonyi State, I understand. And the other day I was looking on social media where people supposedly representing him were firing all over the place. And a small child of under 1 year was abandoned by his or her parents, and they ran away. And I was just most weeping, praying God, let bullet not touch this small child. And I hope nothing happened to him or her. Is that the nature of the leadership And this is the worry. These are the worries that Nnamdi Kanu has.
So he's not aware of Simon Ekpa's, representation of him.
He knows that Simon Ekpa was supporting him because of the interest of justice. But they have thrown it into another dimension. Because I read what he was saying, that he's Prime Minister of Biafra in exile. It's sad for me. Not after fighting for Biafra, and somebody tells me you're Prime Minister in exile, where you're taking orange juice, you're a citizen of Finland, living comfortably in security, and your people here are almost in desolate, nothing to eat, no petrol, nothing, and you're still threatening them that they won't go to work on Monday. Is that love? It is not love. This is where Nnamdi Kanu disagrees completely with what they are doing. And he said I should say so, that he does not support sit at home, that their people should be allowed to make a living. He stands for justice, but you cannot have justice without peace. You have to address peace by addressing justice. So it's a problem. Oh. And like I said, I've started the contact making. I probably will wait until the tribunal, verdict is out. Yesterday I spent time trying to get in touch with the Finnish embassy to see how I can get, because I need to go and, see the young man and really find out what is going on with him. Because our people cannot continue this way. We can't continue this way. All
right, so in essence, people would say Simon Ekpa is hiding away under the protection of the Finland government, and the sit-at-home is happening here, lives are being lost, and he's covered and embraced by the protection he enjoys away from Nigeria. But then you also find out this man may not be acting in isolation. There are young people here who take orders from him, who are maiming, who are looting, who are the ones carrying out the damage. So how does the state come into this play? Because I know that oftentimes several governors, one was the last comment from Governor Hope Uzodinma, who said they should ask Simon Ekpa to return home, to sit at home with them if he needs to enforce that law. So what is the role? I mean, what has been the role of the government, speaking for Nnamdi and also trying to end this saga?
If you remember, maybe about a year ago on this platform, I had said if we had serious governance in the Southeast, I don't care whether you're APC, PDP, now we have 2 APC governments, 1 APGA, 1 PDP, and 1 Labour. I'm not interested in the nomenclature of where you're coming from. I'm interested in seeing the 5 governors we have sit down and know that the protection of our people lies squarely on their hands. This crying of Sana Ekpa did that. These are because there are lacunas here and there that they are exploiting. If a governor is in charge, if I'm in charge of a state, I bet you cannot enter my state and just do anything you like. You can't. You can't. It just means that people are not using their brain. Because people voted for you, you're part of that state. You know what is going on in that state. Once in a while, one or two persons can smuggle themselves into the state and do 1 or 2 nonsense and escape, but it won't be a regular feature. 2 days ago or 3 days ago, I was seeing the social media where a Reverend sister was almost, bastardized, beaten up, her face swollen in Anambra State. Reverend fathers are kidnapped, some killed. So it become a way of life. Our governors have to decide. It's not a matter of Hope Uzodinma talking and Enugu governor talking and that one. They have to have a concerted effort. Come to the federal government, because the whole problem, people are also exploiting the fact that Nnamdi Kanu is detained. And they push it under that is what they are fighting for. Which is unfortunate. Because if our 5 governors and 15 senators and our members of the federal house have effectively pushed this government, and by this government I mean from Buhari's government, what is the offense of Nnamdi Kanu? I asked. Nobody has been able to tell me. When some Igbo leaders met Buhari, he said that the judicial process has to take its course. The judicial process took its course, and the Court of Appeal, of all courts, discharged him of all the charges against him. For the first time in the history of any legal process in the world, Malami, who was then the most dishonest attorney general this country has ever had, ran to a judge, and I think that judge is now the chairman of the Presidential Appeal Committee, ran to him, and he granted an order for keeping Nnamdi Kanu in detention. He's unheard of anywhere in law. So you don't understand really what is going on in this country, that nobody is interested in obeying the rule of law. Because I believe the processes Tinubu has passed in his life, especially the fight he joined Abiola to do in 2012 election, he should be one person to appreciate what rule of law means. And I have said this once or twice, and I don't think he's appreciating what it means. Because he should, if he releases this boy, he will be a walking piece of history. He will be a walking piece of history if he releases this boy. He's not releasing him because he likes his faith, but because the courts have said so. And I believe either a President Atiku Abubakar or a President Peter Obi will release him. They will obey the rule of law. There's no reason why that boy will be languishing in prison. I was happy that he has made me to be his political advisor, telling what is going on in his place and what for us to do to move our people forward. And it's a job I have gladly accepted to do for him. And I'll try as much as possible to see him from time to time. But to be able to coordinate it, I have to travel to Finland to see this man and know what his problem is. I mean, stay in this. People don't come home. Our young men and women don't come home anymore. All wedding ceremonies. This is one festival Igbos enjoy. Wine carrying, wedding. Everybody in the village is expectant of that. It doesn't happen anymore. We're now doing it in Lagos and in other cities. It's unfortunate for somebody to tell his people not to move out on Monday. It's a pity.
Okay, I mean, in terms of the facts and history, some people would also say, especially some scholars, historians, such as yourself, would go back in memory to the year 2003 when Chief Odumegwu Ojukwu visited, I beg your pardon, Ojukwu visited Buhari in Daura, and they had a conversation. And one of the things that came out of that analysis was that Nigeria must remain one, and the hate messages must end. However, with the incarceration of Nnamdi Kanu, does it seem like that conversation is being practiced in real time?
If you remember, I mentioned that on this platform about 2 years ago. I said we were 6 of us, General Odumegwu Ojukwu, invited to tell us that the Buhari had asked him to come to Buhari to discuss about the future of this country. And the other 5 said no, that he wasn't going to. I was the only one who said, go. Igbos have a saying that whatever is in your stomach does not smell until you pass it out. So go to him, listen to him, and know where he's coming from. And he went and spent 2 days with him in Buhari's house. They had a 5-point understanding. Unfortunately, Ojukwu died later. Buhari could not even as much as attend the funeral of Ojukwu. And none of those 5 points did he, make an attempt after being president of. Because when he invited him, he wasn't president. It was just ordinary Buhari. Then he became president. None of those 5 agendas they agreed upon to push this country forward. And one of them specifically said how the Southeast will be seriously put into the mainstream of the Nigerian political process. And he agreed to that. Probably the only attempt he made was probably using Igbos as his vice presidential candidate at each point in time. But after that, what next? All he now did was to his stoking paranoia and hatred. The achievement of putting Nnamdi Kanu in detention now for 4 years going, kidnapping a young man from Kenya, when a government plans to kidnap people, just like they kidnapped former Minister of Transport under Shagari, what is the name of that chap from Kaduna? The mathematician, the brilliant top minister, Omar Odiko. They kidnapped him from London. So this government is now known for kidnapping people. And they spend millions of dollars to their elements in Kano who help them to kidnap Nnamdi Kanu. So that is the success of Buhari. To kidnap a citizen. Why? Because he's talking about justice for his people. Is that a crime? You may not like his methodology. All Nnamdi Kanu represents is the unjust processes against our people for the past 50 years. And the people we have in government don't appear to understand what is going on. Now they can't go home. Now it is coming down to everybody what the problem is all about. So Nnamdi Kanu is not on his own in what he's saying. After seeing him 2 days ago, I committed myself that I will give support to try to see how our place can be a lot better. Igbos don't destroy. Those who built don't destroy. So nobody can accuse us of being part of a destructive process. Nnamdi Kanu cannot be an exception. He's a boy who loves the interests of this country and especially the interests of his people. All he's asking, put us as part of the system. And if you don't want us to be part of the system, then allow us to be on our own. You cannot be taller than me and be shorter than me at the same time. If we are not part of the, because the 8 years of Buhari, we were not part of the system. And the strongest part of government is the National Security Council. There was nobody from South-East who was in that council for 8 years. That is where the strategic decisions of every country is taken. So when you come to the South-East now, it's occupied by military people you don't know where they're coming from. If there are 20,000 mobile policemen or policemen in general in the South-East, not up to 100 of them are Igbos. So also soldiers. But you see, the exciting thing about it is that it does not stop our people from giving them arms, water, bread, and everything. Because now soldiers refuse to do what they are told to do. Every time I come out at any checkpoint, I will give them money. I deliberately do that. By this is this is not what they told us the Igbos are. These are the most benevolent people we have ever seen. They are so happy about it. So, but all these rascals under Ekpa or whomsoever go about, and like Nnamdi Kanu told me that he's against anybody killing a security officer who is supposed to protect law and order. And once that is done, they ascribe it back to iPod. This is unfair.
Now, I hear you say that most of them are not of the southeastern origin. I mean, you talked about some of the military there, but some people have also argued that the southeast region has turned into a war zone without any external aggressor. What they mean by this is that they have enemies within that they created by themselves because of the sit-at-home and, of course, the declaration by Simon Ekpa. So how do you look at those who are of the descent, who are of the origin of the Igbos, and how do they get re-evaluation of what they're doing, and then perhaps some sense of reorientation? Some people have said, well, is the lack of job, is the lack of incentive, is the anger perhaps for some, and of course, remember we had the prison break in Imo State and several parts, you know, some years back. So really, is there a collaboration, even with those within which you've mentioned that are not of the Igbo descent, with those of the Igbo descent within?
Well, I will address that by first saying the nature of leadership we now have in the Southeast is pretty unfortunate, because we have presidents, Nnamdi Azikiwe, Emaya Okpara, Alvan Ikoku, S.G. Koku, Simon Bakwe, Dr. Nwafo Rizo, Dr. Alex Ekweme, even in recent times, Jim Mobodo.
All right, I have listened to him to this point, and I know you did too. He's saying he will go to Finland, and that's a very good one. Good one. Let him step out, you know, to Finland. Hence, he has gone to DSS to see Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. He should see Simon Ekpa as well. He's not a ghost. Let him discuss with him, and then let the guy tell him why he's doing what he's doing.